You so much for coming. I'm super excited about this topic. AAC is one of my passions. So I'm really excited to learn from two non speech language pathologists today about how to make AAC a team effort. So, really quick, if you're not familiar with me, my name is Vanita Litback. I am the host of the Speechy Side Up podcast, and I have a passion for AAC assistive technology and literacy. I am an AAC consultant, and I'm also a Learn with Less facilitator and a mom to an almost 2 year old now, which is just wild. And I am so excited, like I said, to have Morgan and Jana here. Morgan, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Morgan Van Diepen. I am a BCBA. So, yes, I'm not a SLP, but I work really closely with different service providers. I'm the co founder of ABA Visualized and also co author. So, that was a book we published about 3 years ago, and it has visual step by step guides of basically all the ABA strategies. And our mission is to make behavior expertise approachable, accessible, and relatable. And I'm really excited that now we are expanding to do a collaboration with Jana and learn from her AAC expertise. So we have a new book coming out very soon that's called AAC Visualized.
Which you'll be
Yay.
talking about a little bit today, right?
Yes, that's a little sneak peek for we'll talk more about it. And for those that are watching, we have a little visual strategy, a little visual illustration to share as well.
Awesome. And how about you, Jana?
So yeah, so my name is Jana Bedoin. I'm a nationally board certified teacher. I currently teach preschool autism. This is my 10th year as a classroom teacher and also an AAC specialist. And I really specialize in creating teaching environments for my students where they can really thrive, and that's very AAC centered and communication based. And so I like to say, like, I kind of coined this term, but you know how there's like dual immersion programs. I like to say that I have like a AAC immersion program, and it's really heavy on and focused on communication through routines and structures and activities all throughout my students' day. And so my voice really is to give all of my students and clients a voice.
I love that. I like the term AAC immersion. That's great. There's definitely like different versions of that, but I think that that one is like the most approachable that I've heard. There's Chris Bouguet talks a lot about like the different tiers of AAC implementation. So modeling like the RTI system, and at tier one is like AAC immersion. Then tier two, you're getting a little extra support with AAC if you need it. And then tier three is when you're doing the evaluation and assigning a specific system. But at that tier one, you're kind of using the same AAC system for everybody. Is that what you're doing in your classroom right now?
Yes. When I first started doing it, I just picked one language and I modeled that in all my core boards and my big poster boards. And when I mirrored it to my smart board, everything was one language. But as I got familiar with all of the different apps, and that my students were coming with different apps, and so we kind of have like a schedule, like maybe on like Monday and Tuesday we do Prolico, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and so we kind of just fluctuate between, depending on my caseload, what my students are using, then that's what I'm modeling majority of the time.
Oh my gosh, my head just like exploded because I feel like that was like one of the biggest questions I would get asked when I was supporting speech language pathologists in the school as an AAC specialist was how do we handle all of the different systems in one classroom? And you're a teacher who's been doing it. And I love the way you just explained, like you kind of rotate throughout the week. That's amazing because the kids are getting exposed to everybody's system and you're teaching in all of those different systems. So that's like so exciting and amazing to see that it's like being done well. And is it working well for your classroom?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So I think for me, we were gonna talk about this later, but I think I'm gonna bring it up right now because of your question. So, one thing I do at circle time is, so I'll mirror my iPad to the smart board. And so during circle time, I'm modeling. For the first like 3 months of school, I'm doing all the modeling. They're getting all this language input in whatever language they're on, or I have a feeling that they would eventually get. And so Then after that, I'll start making kind of like excuses like, oh, here, and I'll hand it off to a parent, like, oh, I'm gonna go, I gotta answer this phone call, I gotta go check an email, I gotta go to the principal's. And then I'll just hand the tablet over to one of my paraprofessionals so that I've never sat down with them and said, like, this is AAC, this is what you need to do, this is how you do it, this is how you collect data on it. It's a very natural process. And I literally just start making excuses to hand over the device. So they have to sit in my circle time chair and like model the language. So
Oh
they're
my
getting
gosh.
input and experience with modeling as well after they see me model for 3 months. Then after 3 months of that, my students take over control of my AAC devices. I have 4 in my classroom, so I literally have 4 devices running at circle time, and my students don't know which one is like connected to my smartboard, so they all think that they're controlling circle time from their little cube chair at circle time, and they literally control circle time. So I just change the songs, and so they're over there. And so maybe like months of the year, they pull up the months on there and they're activating January, February, while another student's like at the board pointing January, February on the like device mirrored. And then you know how it comes on the talking box on the top, so that I might be pointing on the top, January, February. And so they're getting all of this input
Oh my gosh.
at just alone at circle time. So that's kind of my strategy of how to get the whole really immersion. This is really truly AAC immersion preschool autism class.
Oh my goodness. Like you just said so many awesome things. I love how you were describing it as like a natural process because I feel like it takes the pressure off of everybody to feel like I need to know this and I need to know it tomorrow. And I love how like you're not only modeling for the student because that's a lot about what we talk about. Model for the student, model for the caregiver, or the caregiver needs to model, but who's modeling for them? And you're
Exactly.
doing that, like, you're setting an example by using the system for, like, the first, 3 months you were saying, and then kind of, like, handing it off, but in this, like you said, natural way, and the paras have been exposed to you teaching this way for a while so far.
Exactly.
I
And
love that.
I think the other little tip with that is like I have 4 paraprofessionals in my classroom. And so for 2 years, we just focused on Proloco. And one of my paras was like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Then we got a bunch of students on LAMP Words for Life. And she immediately picked up that language and she could model and engage and tell stories and like very animated with this. And so that was for me like, okay, just like how every one of our AAC learners, different apps and different systems make sense for them, that's the same with our paraprofessionals. And so I'll start getting to know which para does best with what app when they're modeling. And so on those days, it's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're doing lamp. So you're going to model all of the lamp. And then on, Thursdays and Fridays or whatever our schedule is, then you're going to model touch chat because that's the one you're most familiar with. So I play upon the natural like system that they are most like the AAC system that they most align with. And so those are the people that are responsible for modeling that language during the week.
Oh my gosh. Like, I'll be honest, I have been kind of out of, like, the AAC game ever since having my daughter. I still have, like, an AAC client, but like, what you're saying sounds so revolutionary, and I'm just like, am I so out of the loop of the classroom? But, like, I feel like this is gonna be very new information to a lot of people, and I'm so, so grateful that you're here. So, let's get through all the non-fun stuff and then dive in a little bit more, but I'm glad you shared some of that with us. So, really quickly, we have to share this information for ASHA CEUs. Here's our agenda for the first 5 minutes. We've been doing our introductions. We'll get into the barriers of collaboration in AACUs. We'll talk about the research, the solutions, your upcoming book, and then we'll have our live Q&A at the end. We do have to share our disclosures. So, very quickly, my relevant financial relationships include having ownership interest in Speechy Side Up and Tassel Learning and receiving royalties from the Lou Knows What to Do book series. And I'm also a member of ASHA's Special Interest Group 12. How about you, Morgan?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I'm the co-founder and co-author of ABA Visualized. And so through that company, I receive payments for any trainings and our books. And so the trainings, I do trainings for parent trainings as well as trainings for schools and also different service providers as well, collaborative trainings.
Great.
And I am currently employed by Fresno Unified as a teacher and the founder of AAC and Me, and that does include receiving payments from consultations, service trainings, and co-authoring a book with Morgan, AAC Visualized.
Wonderful. And then just to also share, you'll both be receiving compensation for this presentation as well. And then our learning outcomes for today. By the end of this presentation or course, we hope that you'll be able to identify two common barriers with AAC implementation from a multidisciplinary approach, describe the importance of approachable collaboration and dissemination, and identify at least two tips on how to promote AAC all the time. All right, let's dive in. What are some common barriers with AAC implementation?
So this is really about AAC in schools, like the barriers that I've kind of found as a classroom teacher. The first one is just not having access to AAC, whether like the school district um, is not on board with AAC or doesn't have the funding for it. And I know a big barrier personally in my district is that we were like a PC district. Like we would only purchase PC products, tablets, laptops, any technology we couldn't purchase from Apple or Mac. And so because of that, just to get iPads was a huge barrier. And so in the beginning, like I just brought my personal iPad into my classroom. I did donors choose. Every 6 months, I would do a new project to get another iPad. And then I like begged my SLP, like just put any apps on here. I don't care what they are. Like my kids, I need it. They need it. We all need it. So I would like beg, borrow, and steal to get resources. And so I think that's the number one barrier right now in schools is just not even having access to iPads or devices. And then the AAC education piece. So I went out and kind of like looked for things in YouTube and really had a deep like passion and wanting to know more about AAC. And so a lot of that came from my own learning and my own research. Um, so I would say, yeah, just teachers don't know how to do it. They're just handed this iPad, like here's your child, here's your student's device. Good luck. They don't know how to incorporate it into IEP goals, into teaching, into academics, into circle time, into story time, at recess for sure. Like teachers are not in their credentialing programs learning how to implement AAC. The other challenge is, how to get AAC all day. Like we have so many responsibilities on our plate as classroom teachers. And to add like one more thing on our plate, it feels like we're gonna crumble. And so, that is really hard for teachers when we're like, okay, now you have to, on top of everything you're doing, now do this AAC. And teachers don't know what it is, they don't know how to implement it. And it just can feel very, very overwhelming for teachers as well as support staff. And then training support staff. Again, if we are not confident as being AAC leaders in our classroom, how are we expected our support staff to be confident in implementing AAC as well? And this for me was really like an eye-opening moment, this consistency across home and school. So when the pandemic started, we had to change to virtual teaching, virtual learning. And so that's actually how I reached out to Morgan to ask her to be my supervisor, my BCBA supervisor, because I've already completed all my master's and coursework and everything. But it was like, okay, guess what? Now you're in a completely new role. You have to be a parent coach because, it's preschool. So my parents had to sit for the entire Zoom session every day, 5 days a week. And so now I'm like, okay, I really have to switch from like teacher mindset to a coaching mindset. And so, of course, I was like very nervous. I've never been in that role. So I reached out to Morgan because all of her strategies are so approachable. And I wanted to take everything that Morgan was doing in her parent training and coaching and apply that to my virtual classroom. But what I really recognized through doing that for 2 years was I got to be in the homes of my students, which never before as a classroom teacher would I ever have that experience. So I got to see how children were communicating with their parents. Then I got to pop into like private SLP session on Zoom to see how they were doing there. Then I got to pop into ABA session to see how they were doing there, and even school therapy. And what I learned, which was mind blowing to me, is that we are asking my students, my 3, 4-year-old autistic students, to communicate in different communication modes in all of those settings. So at home, they're still doing hand leading and gestures, or maybe tantrums or behaviors. At private SOP, they're like, okay, let's knock on the box to open it up, knock on the cabinet, let's open it up. In ABA, they're working on PECs, distance and persistence, and um, I don't know what phase that is, but they're working on text at ABA. Then school-based SLP, maybe they're working on verbal imitations. And then in classroom, if I didn't have AAC, I probably would have doing like signs or modified signs. And so like in all of these settings, we're asking my students to communicate with a different communication mode based on where you're at and who you're with. And we know my students with autism are not good at generalization. And I'm like, what are we doing to these babies? Like,
Yeah. Any
how can we do
baby, right? Like imagine
that?
any child having to communicate that way in different environments. Wow. That is mind blowing.
Right? That's what I was like, how did we let this go on for so long? But it really took this pandemic for to like open my eyes and have the privilege to see them in all of these different settings and
Mhm.
really walk away with, wow, we are doing a disservice to our students.
Mhm. So you're going to tell us what you did as a result?
Yes.
Okay, good. Like the suspense is killing me. But
Not yet. You
we
have
can
to
hold off.
wait.
You have
Okay,
to
okay.
wait. Yes, there's a
We have
yeah.
more problems to
We have more
discuss
problems.
before we get
Okay.
to the solution.
All right, so we'll go to are we ready for the next
Yes,
page? Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us more problems.
Yes. Okay. So we're definitely approaching this whole view of trying to create and propose solutions for more effective AAC implementation and use from this multidisciplinary approach. So I really want to put in context me as a BCBA, as an ABA provider. Um, I think it's really essential that we, as in my field, recognize and remember that SLPs do have that expertise in speech and language development, assessments, and this is an essential role in how we're deciding on collaborative recommendations for goals to exactly address what the story that Jana just shared, and to whether you're listening and you are the SLP, or maybe you're listening and you're a BCBA, we can be team leaders and trying to actively create that collaborative goal for the clients, students that we're working with. Jana and I really come from the perspective, like as kind of the non SLP experts, that we're trying to really bridge the gap between the expertise that the different providers have and that everyday application for families and teachers. So that's my passion within my field. Obviously, Jana has that passion as being a teacher herself. So we're really focused on that day to day understanding and promoting all the different ways that AAC can be used all the time. So within the field of ABA, particularly, there's a few barriers with this kind of all this like dream that we're talking about with this multidisciplinary approach. The biggest challenge that I have personally seen and experienced is that ABA providers do not have education on AAC as part of our coursework. It's not in our licensure exam. It's not on this list of things that we need to know to be a competent BCBA. So those that have this expertise have sought it out. This is something that we would have to do additionally, which is so shocking to me because if you look at who we're most likely working with, there's like right now, I don't know the exact statistics, but around 30 to 40% of autistic individuals are non-speaking, and around 90% of ABA focuses on supporting individuals with autism. So there's this huge gap between the people that we're working with and supporting and our own expertise, which is a huge barrier that often leads to us kind of feeling stuck. So what that might look like is I have a client who the SLP has already set it up. They have a device and we're at home and we're doing programs on it. We're running our session and something's happening where they're not making progress. They're not interested in the device. We see the parents really often. So the families are coming to us asking for help. What should we do? And we often want to take that problem solving mode and think like, oh, well, applying our ABA knowledge to this communication challenge. And sometimes that can go wrong. And so this is really trying to say, we should be reaching out to the SLPs at that time to say, like, help us with this problem solving. However, if we don't already have that established collaborative relationship, that can be really challenging because We have many, many clients. We often, BCBAs have a really high workload. There's high burnout in our field. So this is easier said than done. But this is kind of this whole cycle that's like, we need the expertise and education, but it's on us to seek it out, and often is coming up during the times where it's like a problem and we need like an immediate solution. I also want to touch on within the field of ABA, looking at kind of these AAC strategies. There's a lot of research on focus on manding, which is requesting. So this is where you've seen the I want this, and it's just going on and on with request all the time. And I think that this was such a light bulb moment for me when working with some of my past clients to really expand to just comments, just saying like, I like it on the device, like that's cool. Look, mom, and just commenting throughout the day is something that is not so ingrained in our research, which means it's not ingrained in our practice. Other note about ABA barriers is, which probably a lot of you are already familiar with, I think ABA has a little bit of an addiction to PECs, and I want to kind of help advocate to at least, I don't want to hate on PECs, but I want to share that there's so many like more alternative communication methods that maybe not all ABA providers are aware of or families are aware of. It usually is, this is like one of the first things that we go to. There's a lot of research supporting it, but it's more about the advocacy of information about current research and other options. So those are some things that I've personally seen within the field. I do see that these barriers people are very motivated within our field to work on these barriers, which has been very positive to see.
Yeah. This interview is turning out so much like better than I could have even imagined. I'm so glad Jana invited Morgan on here, because you never know what you're going to get when you have like different fields. But at Morgan, I think you just made a best friend in all the speech language pathologists watching this, because, and also, at least from my perspective, like empathy, because you do spend a lot of time with the families, and it is really challenging, I think, for SLPs when we make a recommendation and not understanding like where a BCAB might be coming from when they're collaborating with a parent or giving advice to the parent, but they are having to make like decisions in that moment, and they do know the child very well because they've been spending a lot of time with them. And if they haven't gone to seek out more information on AAC, or they know like a way that's worked for them, then I could see where a recommendation might not match like the SLPs at that time. But just hearing where you're coming from and where the field of ABA or BCBAs are coming from, I think can really put in perspective for SLPs to know like why some of those decisions are made, and then how can we like work on that. And I know you guys are going to provide some solutions, so I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
To kind of add on to that, I'm like remembering I had this client was really like I really enjoyed working with them and their family, and the mom was very much an advocate for her child with the use of AAC. And this is a family I'm speaking to on a daily basis. So this is some, like you're like exactly how you're talking about. I have great rapport with this family. They really trust my professional recommendations. So when she's sharing with me, she doesn't think that the device, like the client, is working for her child. And she had tried to, they just had a school-based SLP, and she tried to bring up the concerns with the SLP at the school, and she didn't get the response or that she was expecting out of it. And she was sharing that with me. And I definitely don't want to say like should be BCBA versus SLP, but it's very hard in that situation. She's like, what should I do? Like, you help me. And so that kind of leads into, that passion. I had the passion as well, that as we all do, for helping the family. So I'm like, oh, well, let me look up, if you don't think that this system is the right system for you, I'll look up new systems. And I happened to be working with Jana at the time, and Jana was telling me, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Proloquo is offering this huge discount because it's AAC Awareness Month. And I was like, I'm going to like post it on my Instagram. I'm going to tell this family they can get this huge discount of Proloquo. And Jana was like, no, you can't do that. Like, it's not up to you, or you can't just the family shouldn't just download this app. And I had no idea. I thought that it was like the family can just pick an app that they like, and if it doesn't work, switch and try something else. So that's an example of how this can go wrong, where the family's coming to ask me for help. They told me they already tried to talk with the SLP and it didn't get the solution they wanted. And so I think it would make sense where I could say like, oh, just try this, but I didn't have, if everyone doesn't have Jana to collaborate
Mhm.
with to tell them don't do that, I can very like easily see how this can go awry in very common situations.
Right, right. That's such a great example. Thank you for sharing that. It's just so interesting seeing things from the other side. So I'm so appreciative of all these examples you're giving. All right. Any more barriers or do we want to move on?
Let's
All
move
right.
on.
Let's do it.
Solutions.
Yay. Okay. So why is approachable collaboration and dissemination important?
So everything that we've been talking about is these are all barriers that Jan and I have both seen and experienced. And this is all kind of showing that the approachable and collaboration, approachable dissemination is the solution. We're definitely going to expand on that more, but to kind of set up the framework for this, we all everyone here like listening, we all work and support the same clients, the same individuals. We are working on the same goals, but maybe doing it in different ways. And that really, really impacts client outcomes. There's a ton of research supporting that the more collaboration, the better the outcomes. But one piece to really add into that is that families are also part of this team. And there's a really interesting research article that talks about the family's perspective from all the barriers we've been talking about. And a big piece of that is that it's seemingly that SLPs in the ABA field are giving different recommendations when maybe we're talking about the exact same thing because we have different jargon. So there we're talking about ABA might be talking about we need to target verbal behavior, and SLPs might be saying language intervention means the same thing. SLPs might be talking about communicative temptations, where we might talk about motivating operations. So this is also within my entire, all my whole company with everything I do with ABA Visualize is jargon free everything. I use approachable language regardless of if I'm speaking with parents or teachers or providers, because it's to talk about what is the actual information that we're talking about and taking away that technical jargon that could confuse people. And often people in these situations aren't going to say or might not feel comfortable to say, I don't understand, or can you say that again, especially if you're using jargon every 5 words. And so the research is really supporting having that importance of when we're collaborating with families to be using terms that they're familiar with and seemingly are related. It's the same skill with AB and SLP, so the families don't feel like they have to choose who to listen to.
I love that. That's such a good point, and I love how you gave examples of each, and it just, like, brought me back to, like, doing ABA therapy before going to school, become a speech language pathologist, like, and it's true, like, communication temptations are, like, one and the same of those. Another one's, like, play-based, right? What is the terminology for that, like, in ABA? But
NET, the
okay.
natural environment training, NET maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember
Yeah.
reading an article, I think by Jane Corsten, who talks about some ways that ABA and AAC implementation or like AAC therapy delivered by an SLP are very similar, even though we don't realize it. So, like finding that common ground in order to empower the team. So, yeah, it's funny that you like mentioned that again.
Yes,
Cool.
that's like exactly it. Like for me as the classroom teacher, like I will go to an IEP meeting as the classroom teacher. And then on one side I have SLP and on the other side I have a BCBA. And they are both making recommendations and goals and both using very big terms and jargon that as the classroom teacher I don't understand, which is why I sought out to become AAC specialist and why I sought Morgan out to become, do my supervision hours for my BCBA, because I wasn't understanding either of these languages. Yet at the end of that IEP meeting, after everyone signs their name, these service providers kind of walk away and I'm still in the classroom 5 hours a day, trying to integrate both what the SLP is recommending and what the BCBA is recommending. And so trying to wrap my head around, okay, what are they both trying to tell me? And how can I implement this all day long with all my students in my classroom? And when I really started learning more about the BCBA side from Morgan and the AAC side, I'm like, we are all wanting the same thing. We're doing
Same
the
goal.
same thing, same
Yeah.
goal. We're just not speaking the same language to each other, and that confuses me and it confuses parents. And that's it, I think, historically why there has been some, disagreements and butting heads between these two professions of SLPs and BCBAs. It's historically, they kind of don't always get along, and as a classroom teacher it's hard to navigate that, like me, like sitting there like, okay, I hope, this meeting goes well and I hope everyone can agree, and then how do I actually do this now? And so that really is why it's so important to have this collaboration, this dissemination of information where everyone on the team understands clearly what we're talking about, and that literally we want the same thing and we are practically doing the same things, just from different jargon, just from different fields.
Oh my
I
gosh,
want
that's so great.
I
It
want to
reminds
add
Go
in
ahead. Yeah.
super quick to add on to Jana's in our process of collaborating for our new book. We had a meeting with Jana and I and her SLP mentor that she's worked with for many years, and in the meeting we were like, we have to figure out, because Morgan is very very like adamant on this particular way of doing the specific strategy, and Michelle the SLP was very adamant on her like SLP approach. And I was like, we have to figure out a way to put this together in the book because we want our book to be like accepted by everyone. We don't want it to be an ABA book. We don't want it to be a speech book. And so we came in with very like what we thought were opposing ideas and how can we blend them together? Should we do 2 pages, two different views? And after like 1 to 2 hours, and I'm drawing out everything because that's how my brain works and that's how the book will be. It's all visuals. We're so excited that we finally figured out that we're talking about the exact same thing. And we just are using different terms, and maybe the step is like a little bit different, but we found a way that it's like it's all about how you should respond when they're not communicating. How can you respond to support like a moment where the communication's not happening? And it was so rewarding to get to sit and work and tease it out and be like, let's figure out how can we call this strategy without having these terms. And it was really hard, but very, very rewarding to see the end product of that.
That's awesome. That's such a huge barrier. And this is a great solution. One of the solutions that you're suggesting, because in the past I've heard like how do BCBAs and SLPs collaborate, and a lot of the times I hear like just take data. The data will
Yeah.
show which approach is working more effectively, the ABAs or the SLPs. But I still feel like that can create tension between
Yeah.
like the two
Who's the
professions.
winner?
Yeah, who's the winner? Exactly. Whereas this is like, you want the same thing. The
Mhm.
goal for the child is the same, and we're both like talking over each other. So, how can
Exactly.
we reach like a common goal? I love it. Such a great outlook and point that you guys are making. Thank you for that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. So let's talk about the research. I know that this is big. Everybody wants to know, like, what does the research say and how does it support this?
Yeah, so what we've been talking about is, some of it based in our experiences, some based in the research we've read. We wanted to highlight some specific quotes, and we've put all of these full references at the end that really highlight what we've been kind of talking about as the barriers. The first one is saying that the failing to effectively communicate may result in an incompatible mix of treatments that may produce adverse or even harmful outcomes to the client. So it's a big deal if we're doing how Jana was saying from her experience, this person's doing this one and this person's doing this one and this one and this one. It's not only that it can not make progress, it can actually be harmful to our clients. The next quote I want to share was really eye-opening to me. It was a 2013 survey of over 300 behavior professionals. 95% said they work with individuals with autism. but 67% have never taken a collaboration course at university level, and 45% have never participated in professional development activities that address collaborative practices. So I will say to not hate on the ABA field so much, because this is a very alarming statistic,
Mhm.
that we have a new, it's called the task list. It's what everything that we have to study. They updated our coursework and our ethics code starting January 1st, 2022. They did add collaboration as part of that, but that means that the people who are in this coursework now will hopefully be BCBAs 2 years from now. So that's something to kind of have in context, that if you're working with ABA providers right now, they might not have this expertise unless they've sought it out themselves. But our field is really recognizing this need and has changed the coursework to reflect that. The last one is something we already talked about, the jargon. And it's the use of discipline-specific jargon highlights differences across disciplines. It makes communication challenging and might make professionals feel marginalized in treatment conversations. And I have definitely felt that way. Jana shared about her experiences in IEP meetings. I've been in probably hundreds of IEP meetings, and I'm sitting there going, I have no idea what they're talking about, no idea what they're talking about. And everyone's saying, okay, sounds good, next one. And it does not feel collaborative, and it makes me feel like an outsider if I don't understand what everyone else is saying at the table. So that's something that I've also definitely experienced.
Yeah. A couple things to add to that. Like, I think sometimes we're using jargon and we don't even realize it. Not just
Mhm.
SLPs, but just people in general. Like, you'll use
Yeah.
jargon for certain things, and it's just so second nature to
Mhm.
you that you don't even realize it. So that does make it difficult. But I think you're going to talk about maybe some strategies to kind of like circumvent that. And then back to the previous bullet point, in like fairness, in the field of speech language pathology, I don't think, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there's a specific requirement from ASHA that says in order to get your certification, or to get your C's again, that you have to take a course in collaboration either. So maybe that's
Mm.
something our field needs to look into as well. I know we have requirements for other areas, but I don't know that collaboration is one of them. So that would be interesting. And like I said, someone correct me if I'm wrong about that. But thank you for sharing those. That's really helpful. And do you have the references for the first and the third quotes? Are they on the references
Yeah,
page?
everything is on the
Okay,
reference page. Mhm.
awesome. Perfect. All right. So what does the research say about the solutions?
Yay, okay, we finally made it to solution. So one of the articles that we read, one of the quotes is better collaboration between ABA and SLP professionals could result in higher quality of service delivery for individuals with communication impairments. So definitely everything we've been saying, that collaboration between the ABA provider, the SLP, and even though it's not in the quote, I'm gonna say teacher, don't forget about us teachers. We have to all be collaborating. We all need to be on the same page for better outcomes. The other thing I really took away is that parents are their child's most important communication partner. So really seeing that through distance learning, being on Zoom with the parents, that they really are. And like I felt like I was in like my little classroom bubble before distance learning, and then distance learning and pandemic like just popped it, and I really saw how important it is for parents to be trained in AAC, how to implement it, how to model, what happens when they want to add a picture of grandma in there, where do we add these pictures, or of Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or favorite restaurants. And so parents really need to also have this support so that they can make AAC successful at home as well. And research does show that parents learn effective implementation procedures with relatively little training. So just taking those extra steps after the AAC assessment is done to give parents training and support. And it's not like, okay, the AAC assessment is done and that's it. They got their device, my job is done. No, it's kind of like this ongoing, evolving relationship as the child is developing their communication skills.
Yeah, that's such a great point. All right. Did you want to talk any more about this, or should I go ahead and move on
I
Can move
think
on.
let's go to the next one, and we have now we're going to go full on
into the
into solution.
steps? All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
solution steps.
All
I
right,
thought
let's
of
let's dive in.
I thought of one additional, we didn't put it on here, but as we're speaking about the jargon, one tip I have on that is um, if you're going to be doing a training or you're going to, whether it's for staff or families, or you're going to go do an IEP meeting, to practice what you're going to say to a friend or your partner who is completely removed from this field. I
Yeah,
was
I've heard
really
that.
surprised as what you said is like what we think is jargon. I one time was working with a family and I said the word tantrum and they didn't know what tantrum was. And I was like, to me, I was like, I thought that was the approachable word. And so really being open to feedback and open to having this practice to try to tease out and get outside of your professional bubble.
Yeah, that's such a great one. I have heard that one before. And it's almost like describing what it is happening versus using the term for it. Like what is like the observable action that is like happening. But I guess
Yeah.
it depends on like if you're talking about a disorder, then in that case, like that wouldn't apply. So I do like the suggestion to try it out with like a friend. Couldn't try it without with my husband because I feel like he has gotten his master's in speech language pathology at this point, as I'm sure a lot of other SLPs with their partners feel, but
Yeah.
definitely could try it with like my sister or something like that. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so talking about this is a suggestion for a better collaboration that Jana and I came up with. So the first one is step one is to, with the team, identify the shared goals and values. We've been talking about that we probably already have the same shared goals and values, but we haven't specifically said that. And that's really helpful for the family to know that we are all on the same page. All their providers are on the same page. And we are listening to what the family or the client themselves wants for their goals, how they see their future, what they want our help with. And so this should be a collaborative meeting with all the providers. I want to kind of also talk about here, this might already be an opportunity for some collaborative problem solving. For a really common scenario is that what if parents are very adamant in focusing and improving vocal language, but the other providers are saying, we also want vocal language, but right now we need to also establish other ways to communicate just to teach some way of communicating their needs. And so that could be a way to have that discussion collaboratively and not shutting down what the family is saying, but talking about the information about the data about showing when you're using AAC device, for example, that can even improve vocal communication. So showing how the current goals that we have are linked to the shared long-term goals. So that's a really important first step. Seems pretty obvious. It doesn't often happen in my experience. So we're really hoping that that would be a great first step that people listening can take the advocacy to be the leader in this. Step
And
two,
like,
yeah, go
just
ahead.
to be
Sorry.
clear, like it's not IEP goals.
It's
Like
not IP goals.
let's
No.
talk about
Yeah.
like like let's put it in plain language. What are the goals? Like
Yes,
this is not something we're going to be like tracking or taking data. We're going to like
exactly.
take this and make a plan, but like let's just put it on paper what the plan is. I love this
Exactly.
because I had developed like a free resource for teams to collaborate with AAC. And one of the main things I had was just kind of like a checklist of like where everybody on the team is at with their knowledge about AAC. But like I
Mm.
didn't even think about having like this session where everybody's kind of like sharing their similar goals for this child. And that's like it should be step one. That's so important. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and I think it's working because I work so closely with families. It's something that I feel is often a burden on the family, and it shouldn't be. We should be leading this and arranging this, and it shouldn't be once we get to the family feels that there's conflict and ask for us to come together. So this should be proactive. The next step is going along with step one is from, like you're saying, this is not an IEP goal. This is not a SLP goal. This is not an ABA goal that we're turning into insurance. This is like an approachable goal, an approachable plan. So we want to, in that meeting, also write a very simple, this should be like less than one page, kind of just a very approachable language plan on that's easily accessible to every team member on what everybody's like responsibilities are. So this is what's happening during speech sessions. This is what how ABA can help during their sessions. Here's parents' role. Here's the recommendations for how the teacher can work on this same skill in their classroom. And that's really, you have the same goal and it is being generalized across all the different people. Is generalized an ABA jargon word? I'm asking right now.
I mean, we
Let me
use
see.
it, but I don't know. Like,
Okay.
that's a great point. I think from a parent's perspective, that could be a jargon word. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like the versatility of that skill across every different setting with every person. It's where the goal that we're working on might look a little bit different, but it's the same skill working towards the same goal. So Jana and I had talked about like how could this be easily accessible? This could be something that is like in this meeting, you just make a shared Google Doc and people can just come and access it when they want to check in. This is not data. This is just our plan. And it's also great if there's a substitute teacher or a new interventionist comes on the case. They're part of the team as well, and everyone can just really quickly read and understand what their role is and how to best support that client or student.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
Step 3 is more related to those actual goals. So, as you mentioned, there's IEP goals, the SLP goals, and ABA goals. Those are the more technical goals that we are turning in for the funding source to approve or the IEP team to approve. We want to suggest that those are also aligned. So, this is hopefully to prevent that the SLP goal in school is talking about doing some sort of strategy, and at home and ABA we're focusing on mandating, and then the SLP at outside of school is doing something else. So really making sure that also those goals that we are collecting data on, they don't have to be the exact same goals, but they're aligned and supporting each other. And that could all of this can happen during this one meeting.
Sounds
uh,
great.
and the last one is to kind of make a plan to see if this is going to work and continue this collaboration, is just to set a schedule to where the team can come and just have like a brief virtual check-in. Do we need to make any adjustments? How's it going? Do team members have questions for different team members? So hopefully it's setting up that proactive collaborative relationship. Thinking back to what I was saying at the beginning about we shouldn't be seeking out collaboration when a problem comes up. When I feel stuck, then seek out SLP. This should be somebody that I already have a relationship with. Of course, we're all busy. This isn't, you need to have like a 1 hour meeting every week, but setting up something where you're having on your calendar this 30-minute virtual check-in. So that way it provides that consistency and continuation of care, and having the parents and client, if they want to as well join in, be part of this meeting. Everyone can come, the babysitter, grandma. This should be like, the more the team is there, the better.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great suggestion. So I think I need to mention this because I feel like this is a reality when you are ever working in a group. Think back to like grad school, like there's always one person that kind of takes the lead. So how do we navigate that with these steps? Is it the person that's most familiar with this process that's kind of like leading the efforts initially? Like, how would you handle that?
Yeah,
I
and
think
we
that's a
kind
really
of
good question. Go ahead, Jana. Sorry.
we kind of Morgan and I, when we were creating these 4 steps, we had that same thought, and we both believe like the SLP is the expert in AAC. And so we really would like the SLP to take the lead. And then the role of BCBA and teacher is really disseminating and applying everything that the SLP is saying. So
Okay.
that's what we kind of thought as well.
Okay. That's amazing that you guys are like that open to collaboration, that you're like, this is our process, but it really like should be the SLP who like leads this in terms of like AAC implementation. And because of like the device maybe that they recommended or done an evaluation and determined that this was the best solution for that child. So I mean, it's just really inspiring, I think, for everybody that's watching to see like how collaborative it can be between a BCBA, a teacher, and a speech language pathologist. Like you guys are really extending an olive branch, and I would want to be on your team. So, no, it's
Thanks.
great. And did you say you have an SLP who's also co-authoring with you?
She's consulting on
Oh,
it, but
great.
co-authors are we've actually our company ABA Visualize actually started as a collaboration as well because so I'm a BCBA. My husband is an infographic designer, so he knows absolutely nothing about this whole ABA as nothing, and so we created the book. It's basically ABA as infographics, as visual
Oh, wow.
flowcharts. So that was the first collaboration, and now this next one we're doing all about AAC. So that's why we brought in Jana, and we're actually consulting with many different experts. So we have Jana's SLP mentor. I have
Michelle Austin, let me shout out to
yeah. We have different autistic providers and professionals that are also consulting with us. We want to make sure that, being aware of the population that a lot of us service, that we're being very respectful and putting the most ethical best practices and recommendations. So getting feedback on that. There's a BCBA colleague that I work with who is deaf and really does a lot of advocacy for supporting the deaf community within these topics. So we're really hoping to, like you're saying, model collaboration. We're not just saying you should do this. We're
Mhm.
really on a daily basis actively doing this as well. And so it is Jana and I and my husband as the technical co-authors, but there's a whole behind the scene teams.
I love that. All right, let's go to the next one. So, what tips should SLPs disseminate to teachers to promote AAC all the time?
Yes, I think SOPs can really help teachers set up their classroom. So, have a core board here at this area, have one by the door, put one at circle time to really help make AAC accessible and normalize the use of AAC in a classroom. So it's not like there's like a AAC time where that's the only time we bring out this AAC device, or only when we're doing snack time we're going to use AAC. It really has to be normalized as part of the classroom. And the SOP, I know my SOPs, my school-based SOPs, you guys are overloaded and overworked and have way too many kids on your caseloads. And teachers, as teachers, we understand that. So if you could actually come and model in our classroom, take a time to come in and just show us. Like when I say model, this is exactly what I mean. And are going to really appreciate that time because we know how busy you are. And so to take time out of your therapy to come really explain it to us, to show it to us, we would really definitely appreciate that. And then again, modeling for SOPs need to tell teachers, like when you're modeling for your students, you're also modeling for your paraprofessionals, like we talked about at the beginning of the session. And that AAC, I wish other teachers and SOPs could really share that AAC is not the activity itself. We need to put AAC into the activity. So those are some tips that I wish SOPs could share.
Yeah, those are great tips. It's definitely a shift from like traditional AAC implementation, which was like you made a communication board or pictures for every activity you were doing, whether it was like Play-Doh or eating or, a creative activity. There's been this shift where we're using core words
Yeah.
across all activities because they apply to all of them. So, yeah, it's hard to kind of pull away from what people are used to, but the fields, all of the fields in general are moving like in the right direction. Great. Okay, so let's see what should SLPs disseminate to the team to help avoid AAC device abandonment? This is such a problem.
Yes. And really, again, going back to the SOP is really responsible for the assessment piece, for disseminating this important information. But then when it comes to, there's like areas or three reasons why I see AAC abandonment happen a lot. The first one is when a family or a BCBA or someone like just, oh, you have an iPad, go get this app, download it and start using it with your child without having that AAC assessment done to really know what the right language is, the right grid size is, the motor planning pieces. And so then we're like, it doesn't work. We're going to give up. The student isn't making progress with it, but really that's our fault because we didn't set them up for that success by making sure we did their feature matching to make sure that the device or system or app or core board is the right system for the child. The second area where I see AAC kind of going wrong from the BCBA side is that they try to implement AAC like PECs. So first we're going to start off on a really small grid size, maybe 4. Then they're going to master these 4 pictures. Then we're going to give them 8, and then we're going to give them 12, and they have to kind of master it. But what they're not really understanding is you're changing the motor plan for that student every time you're increasing the icons or images on the page. And so then, BC, it's not working, let's give up. And so those are really reasons where I'm seeing kind of this abandonment is happening. And all of that we kind of project onto the child or the client. Like they're not getting it, they're not using it to talk, they're only using it to ask for apples, when really that should be on us and not on, putting the blame on our students. Um, and then really how to implement and promote AAC all the time. So like I said, it's, during all day at home and at school, everywhere. It's in routines, it's in nighttime routines at home, and going home routines at school. It just needs to have AAC all the time because they need that aided language input. They need the AAC language coming in, and then we can expect that coming out. And when we don't give them enough input, the child gets so frustrated, and it's not fair to them. So just more knowledge and education.
Yeah. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the example you gave at the beginning where when you went to do I could say teletherapy. I don't remember what you
Oh,
called it,
distance
but
learning,
there you
yeah.
go, distance learning jargon. When you were working with your students via virtual learning, you got to see how everybody was kind of communicating with that child. And it's interesting that like that just shows there's that gap, there's not a bridge. So you ended up being that bridge at that point in time. But once the virtual learning is removed again, the bridge is gone, right? So like how do we build that bridge up? Like how do you have your eye on what everybody is doing? Maybe your virtual check-ins that you had mentioned would be a great way to do that. It's just very interesting to it's like the pandemic was so good in so many ways, and that was definitely one of them, like just being able to like have an idea of like what's happening in all of these different environments. But unfortunately, things are kind of going back to like the way they were before. So how do we keep that momentum going?
That's what I was feeling like back in the classroom full time. And I wasn't able to, work with parents. Like I see them at drop off and pick up, and like
Mhm.
that's about it once a year at the IEP meeting. And I was missing that. I was craving that connection and those check in with parents. So that's why I kind of started like services on the side to do parent consulting for AAC, because I was seeing such a big gap. And now there's more access because of technology and iPads and apps. There's more access to AAC, but there's still not information out there for parents how to use AAC. And so that's why I started doing like a little consult on the side, just so that parents can have that information, and I could still continue to have that rapport with parents and those relationships outside of being a classroom teacher. And then I think that's also what really inspired our book. It's like there's so much information on AAC. There's so much more access now. And I think AAC is now an evidence-based practice as well. So even more so, we'll see more research and more implementation of it. And so that's really how I explain to Morgan. I do feel like the bridge as the classroom teacher, being kind of like Switzerland to like the BCBAs and the SLPs and the parents, like being this middle man to really open up the worlds and cross over into both professions.
Yeah. No, it just shows like from the SLP's perspective, like how much time we need to be spending with the teacher, even though we're the one making the recommendation and doing the report, providing the teacher with enough support that they can be that bridge for everybody, because you really are like the middleman. And then you get into early intervention, which I'm doing, and I just recommended a device for a 2-year-old, and it's going to be interesting to see like how we navigate that. But I love some of the suggestions that you guys have made. So thank you for that. All right. So let's talk about your book. I see a visual here, so I can't wait to learn more about it.
Yeah, so we're super excited. It's been everything that we've been talking about has been a huge motivation, and you will see every topic we've talked about in this book. I want to show for those that are watching instead of just listening, because our new book is going to be kind of modeled off of the ABA visualized book. So you can see every single like ABA strategy is taught through visuals.
That's awesome.
And so with that, we had in our field very similar challenges. We still have very similar challenges. It's an issue of dissemination, and it's a challenge of how can we take all this expertise and put it and disseminate and share it in a way that those who are actually needing to use these skills can easily understand. And this is, everything like from the design to have it be like cute little colors and illustrations and just be like, I can't wait to like open this book and look at it to really have that tool for providers to know they can recommend something that has the expertise, but it's approachable, it's accessible, it's relatable. We have in our AAC visualized this little illustration that you can see on the screen is inspired by Jana in her classroom with a device working with the student. But we have pictures of individuals using all different types of AAC learners of all ages across all settings, different backgrounds. So it's meant to be a very inclusive book. So that way providers do feel confident in recommending and sharing this resource to help with that piece. A book can be really that tool because we don't have a lot of time, like we've all been talking about. So being able to trust something that says this is the expertise, but it already is addressing these barriers we've talked about is the mission behind this book. So we're really excited. It's going to come out in maybe fall 2022.
Yay.
So very, very soon.
Awesome. And where is it available?
It's going to be available for right now on my website, abavisualized.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. That's really exciting. So, for anybody that's watching right now, I would love to hear, maybe put it in the chat, like what you think this visual is representing. Let's give them
Mhm.
a few seconds, and then Jana or Morgan, you can go ahead and tell us. But I'll just kind of describe what's happening for anybody that's listening and not watching. So, there is what I'm assuming is an instructor, there's a child sitting next to her, they're at a table, they've got some arts and crafts going on, and they have a device on the table in front of them. So, what strategy is this representing?
So this one is the modeling. The teacher is modeling, the child is doing his art activity, and as he's putting things on, the teacher is just modeling different core words for the child, like, oh, put on, you do, let's make. So just modeling some words for the child.
I love it. Yeah, and some of these concepts are really abstract, so I love that like you're providing these visuals for people to see like what that looks like and to reference back to too. And these are your references from the research that you shared earlier. And these are where everybody can find you. And I know you mentioned your website, Morgan. Is there any other place where you want people to find and connect with you?
I think Instagram is probably the best for both Jana and I. I will also say the book will also be available on Amazon, and it
Okay.
will be available internationally. And we ship internationally from our website, and obviously Amazon does their own shipping processes as well. So hopefully, regardless of where you're listening, you'll be able to access that book.
Okay, great. So it's aac.and.me, ABA Visualize, and Speechy Side Up. And we're going to go ahead and open it up to our live Q&A now. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
You.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. We're going to stop it here because we do need to get to the next course. This one is going to go way over. And there were a lot of questions that came through the Q&A. So thank you, Morgan and Jana, for answering those live. And Morgan, I think you just answered the very last one. So that should be covered. Any information about ABA Visualize will be in the recorded playbacks. We can put some information in our private community on the SLP Nerdcast platform as well, so that everybody can get more information about that. But thank you both so much for coming and answering those questions, at least in written format.
Thank you so much for coming. And if anyone has any additional questions moving forward, feel free to pop those questions into the private community and tag our presenters, and they will be able to answer them there.
Awesome. All right. See you in the next course, everyone. Bye
We'll
again.
see everyone in the next course. Thank you.